Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sheridan Lowrey, and you may have seen me in the news recently, but you may not recognize my face other than a couple of visits here. Anyway, it is an honor to be with you guys. I'm a lifelong Republican since the age of 18, registering to vote. I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of my background, but anyway, you can learn a lot about me at SheridanForSheriff.com. It's a pleasure to see you guys. This election is going to be a paramount election, both on a national level as well as a local level. I'm running for sheriff for a couple of reasons, and you're going to learn about that. Many of you probably already know, but your children aren't safe in Okaloosa County, and the fiscal responsibility of this county has been something that's been in question for a very, very long time. I've got a business background, been licensed for about 24 years in real estate, construction, finance, as well as executive level management. Been through more background checks than Carter has liver pills, so please understand that during this election, in this particular cycle, on a national and local level, the voters who have apathy and do not take the opportunity to learn about the candidates are going to be sorely disappointed, and it may not ever be an opportunity in your lifetime to correct those wrongs that have been done. As such, I am going to change the scope of Okaloosa County in a way that you cannot imagine. Anyone who doubts that I have, you probably remember back in March I told you that I have come forward as a sacrificial lamb. I do that freely and I do that willingly. I continue to be the sacrificial lamb, but I will protect the elderly, I will protect their families, and I will eradicate illegal drugs from Okaloosa County. It's a war that can be won, it just hasn't been waged. So take a look at my website, SheridanForSheriff.com, and we look forward to the questions tonight. Thank you so much, and God bless each and every one of you.
Who is your principal financial backer?
My parents and myself.
Okay, very good. What is the single most important thing that should be addressed in the sheriff's office today?
The budget. If that's what you're saying, that it's not online, that is not my issue. The information is there. Where we spend every dime is available to you, the public. That's why we live in the Florida, the Sunshine State. Every public record we have. These individuals send me constant public information requests that we post their question and we post the answer on our website. And I challenge you to go there for the last 2 years and see how much time they have taken up your sheriff's office management, seeking some little way to undermine your sheriff's office versus trying to build a better community. This is all about politics. Your sheriff's office is transparent, and I challenge any of my opponents to prove otherwise.
First, I do want to address that. I have sent requests. I'm not sure about other candidates' motives, but mine are the interests of justice. Interests of justice. Interests of justice, period. And many of those public records requests have not been met. Most important was the question that was asked. What is the most important issue facing the Sheriff's Department? Number one, absolutely protecting our children, protecting our families, and cleaning up our communities. That's not being done here. The elderly are at peril, your children are at peril, your grandchildren are at peril. Drugs, number two, 100%. I made a statement a week and a half ago at one of the forums that I estimated about 90% of everyone in a prison, everyone in a jail, wound up there during a time when they were either under the influence or were either accused of committing a crime when they were under the influence of an illegal drug, a prescription drug, or alcohol. Well, I had the wonderful opportunity of putting together a focus group last Friday morning of about 30 prisoners. And as such, I asked that question. The focus group didn't cost me a dime. Everyone in that focus group, sitting in a tank, about 30 of them raised their hands and said absolutely that they were there when they were under the influence and they were all arrested because of something that stemmed from drugs. It is the blight that is removing the grace of God upon this nation. And if we as a community cannot declare war, not pretend, not have new toys from big boys, but I'm talking about eradication of drugs. Lastly, accounting, real-time accounting. We do it in business, and your government should do that. If I'm elected your sheriff, in 180 days, you will have real-time access to all accounting journal entries of your sheriff's department, both outflow and income. There will be no more secrets. Every check that's issued will be accounted for online. We do it in business, and I think it is appalling that our government does not do that. If we did, we would not need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in audits from independent auditors, because you, the taxpayer, would be our auditors.
Okay, the next question goes to Tony Taylor. Start it off. Describe your leadership style that you would employ in directing the sheriff's office in the county.
First and foremost, in order to be a leader, you have to have humility. You cannot command respect. You have to earn respect. That's been my management style for 24 years. I will continue to do so. As a business owner, small business owner, again, we had a sheriff here that was actually one of Sheriff, Larry Gilbert. Some of you may remember Sheriff Gilbert. But he came from a banking world. And so the argument today is that someone like me, a businessman who's been professionally licensed for that long, is unqualified to serve as your sheriff, is quite frankly hypocritical. It's a violation of your Constitution. Article 1, Section 7 says very simply that the military, police, power shall be subordinate to the civil authority. And that's the reason our form of government is set up that way, is so that you have the safeguards. The second level of management style that I would bring to your sheriff's department is demanding exceptionalism, not ordinary. When you demand and expect for ordinary people to do extraordinary things, and you set the standard for that, they're going to follow. Lastly is an invested interest. When you bring to them the opportunity that they have an invested interest in serving you, the public, everyone who wears the uniform and everyone who serves at your sheriff's department is a public servant. They need to be recognizing that you, the taxpayers, provide the funding for their service. It's not the other way around. I will bring that opportunity for those individuals to be humble, to understand that we expect as citizens and as their sheriff, extraordinary, not ordinary.
Okay, this gets us back to where we began. Sheriff Ashley, we'll start with you on this question. Our cities are suffering through an epidemic of gang activity throughout the country. Gangs are spreading. Do you know of gang activity in Okaloosa County? And if so, how big of a problem is it?
Gang activity does exist. Obviously, I commend the sheriff on the work in recognizing and identifying. You've got basically local gangs, and then you've got national affiliated gangs. Gang activity does exist, and gang activity movement comes in and out of Okaloosa County. It's not something that is strongly rooted here, but that activity comes in to support the drug trade. It comes in to support many of the other vices that spin off of that. It kind of goes back to my other statement. When you eradicate the drugs, you eliminate their source of revenue. When you eliminate their source of revenue, you start saving your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and your nephews, those that are addicted. And many of your people that are on drugs don't want to be on drugs. Again, while talking with the wonderful free focus group that I was afforded the opportunity on my vacation last week, I had an opportunity to really drill down into that. Listen, I use that time very wisely. That's part of a good manager's ability. So I did. I drilled down into that and asked very specific questions. People that are familiar with Pensacola understand that they are having a large amount of drive-by shootings and gang-related shootings. And that activity, I understand it from the core. You got to remember, I come from Montgomery, Alabama. It is a heavily gang-populated community. No one understands that better than me. I didn't grow up on the Silver Spoon train. I grew up on the other side. I was on the south side of the tracks. Grew up in a rough neighborhood, and so integrated in school in the Montgomery County public school system, and there's no one that understands that better than I, and especially the ability to utilize a 70% of our population here in Okaloosa County that is retired military or active duty military that could be used to increase the posse force. It's being used right now. If you go to the sheriff's website, look at the posse, look at what that mission statement is, look at the things that it says. It indicates that it's no cost to the sheriff's department. It should be used for more activities than just crowd control at some of the public events. And I would obviously utilize that to bring in talented individuals. I believe to my core that anyone who has children or grandchildren will move heaven and earth to protect their community and their family and their children. Your citizens could be great resources. And I'm just not always talking about somebody wearing a gun and getting out and beating the streets. A lot of abilities can be done behind the scenes. And I'm going to use the posse forces that are afforded the sheriff under Chapter 30.15 of the Florida statutes.
This is a follow-on to the gang question, and it has to do with gangs' primary activity, which I believe is drugs. We lose a lot of our young people before they get started in life at a very early age, sometimes as early as late elementary school or in middle school due to drug exposure and drug activity. I'd just like each of you to comment on whether you believe that's a fact, and if so, what can be done about it in our schools, within our community.
Thank you so much for that question. Listen, unlike Bill Clinton, I didn't even take a toke. Was offered marijuana. Bill Clinton claims that he took a toke, but he didn't inhale. I guess I was probably 13 years old in junior high school when a dear friend of mine, who's still a dear friend of mine, asked me if I wanted to smoke a marijuana joint with him. And I told him very clearly that if he did not get that away from me, please forgive me, ladies, that I would beat his brains in and kick his you-know-what. And obviously, I think he respected that because that was the stance I took. My father's here, who's 85 years old. I'm sorry, 84 years old. We're adding a year to that. But my parents did a good job of bringing me up. They didn't do much for squelching that free will of mine and stubborn-mindedness. But what they did do is they instilled in me the value systems. They instilled in me that drugs would be a dead end. As such, I do believe that drugs are the plague of this nation. It is the curse of the ground. It's the curse of the land in which we live. You look at other nations where you have that type of pervasive activity, and it is the decay of their societies. And we all recall many, many years ago when there was a war declared on drugs by Richard Nixon. And has that war been won? Think about the billions and billions and billions of your dollars that have been invested in a war on drugs. I absolutely believe that drug use is the most pervasive disease that this nation has ever seen. It's more of a threat than any communist, any socialist, and any Marxist. And I quite frankly believe that that's the tool that they have chosen to destroy America from within. And that's the reason that I speak to you very clearly that my pledge will be to eradicate in 4 years. I will only serve as your sheriff. One and done, 4 years. We won World War II in 4 years. We will win the war here in Okaloosa County in shorter time than that.
Our county here in Okaloosa County has evolved from a sleepy community with petty crimes to a populous area faced with serious felonies. How do you see the sheriff's office changing and evolving to meet the demands of the future?
And how do you prevent violent crime? 23% increase in domestic violence. How do you prevent domestic violence? I want to see the crime prevention program that's been effective in decreasing crime prevention. We have to work on these things as social issues as well as a criminal issue. So as your sheriff, we address those, we're aware of them, and I'm fighting daily to make sure that we fund public safety as the #1 priority in our local government.
You know, when I was 20 years old, I moved out of Montgomery and left my parents' home and bought a 21-acre horse farm just north of Montgomery, close to Lake Martin. And that was my slice of paradise. It was getting out of the rat race of Montgomery, getting back to God's country and to nature, and enjoying my horses and wonderful little fish pond. And then acquired up some property around me. But with that being said, what we had was a sleepy little town. When I used to come down here in the 1980s, this was a wonderful community. It's not necessarily as wonderful as it used to be, but you know what? I refuse to concede defeat that we can't eradicate crime from our community. I just find it appalling that we can't find a consensus that we will declare war and clean up our community and restore it to what we wanted it to be. And that was a great place to retire. By a show of hands, please, just bear with me. How many of you were not born here but moved here, intentionally chose to move here? How many? Majority of this entire room. And the reason that we all chose to move here is because we wanted a safe place to live. The petty crimes is what you have when everybody adheres to a value system that the sheriff spoke about, conservative family values. And that value system has been eroded from inside, and it has not been restored, and it continues to be under attack in America. Our Constitution is a great document, but it's also a living document that was really dating back to the 1215 Magna Carta. The pervasive increase in felony crimes is a direct result of that family breakdown that the sheriff mentioned. He also spoke about how we decrease domestic violence that has attributed to that incredible spike in the numbers in the statistics of violent crime. Well, when you have organizations in Okaloosa County that is offering cash payment of federal dollars to individuals to sign false affidavits of a domestic violence, only would they be paid if an arrest is made. That's criminal. You have criminal enterprises misusing your tax dollars, both federal, state, and local, to increase your domestic violence. So if the sheriff wants to investigate how to decrease domestic violence, look at the organizations that are doling out illegally your tax dollars to increase those domestic violent arrests in Okaloosa County. As your sheriff, I've already, put it this way, as your sheriff, I have already developed all the evidence that's needed to take down these organizations that are stealing your tax dollars. I just need your vote to become the sheriff so that I can launch that official investigation, obtain the warrants, to obtain the records to effect those arrests.
It's been mentioned a couple of times this evening, you need manpower in order to do the job. How would you determine manpower requirements for the sheriff's office? What methodology would you use? What metrics would you use? And how would cost of that manpower play into your recommendation?
Thank you. You know, I was a licensed builder in Alabama and had the wonderful opportunity and pleasure to build some houses for some amazing people over in Auburn, Alabama, and in Montgomery. And one of my clients is now sitting on the Supreme Court of Alabama, Justice James Bain. But the reason that some very prominent people came to me is because they understood my inept ability to plan. Not only was I a builder that received a set of plans, but I could draw the plans. I drew the plans. I had a home building company. I had a home supply company. They could select everything for the home. I was the only builder in Alabama that built the big monster homes at a fixed price contract. The reason I was able to do that is because I had the ability to drill down into the numbers. If any of you have ever built a custom home, you never found a builder who said, okay, that's your plans and I'll build it, here's what it's going to cost. It's always cost plus because there's so many variables. As a result of that leadership ability that I had as a young man in my 20s in Alabama, to have someone of such magnitude to select me was an honor. And I never, ever allowed them to wonder if that was a mistake. I continued to do exactly what they had faith in me doing, and that is being a good manager of the resources available. The methodology is real simple, and that is understanding force multipliers. The tourism spike is something we can't get away from. It's just like Tallahassee on football game day. They have to have force multipliers in order to meet the increase of a population that spikes by 130 or 140,000 people in Tallahassee. So I understand the ability of how to do that. I can bring those resources to bear. When you understand bringing force multipliers into effect, the rest of it is very simple. Everybody, I think, at this table agrees that it can be done on the regular population with resources and manpower, but where you have to have those contingency plans on top of contingency plans put together and ready to execute at a moment's notice if you have those, and it can't be done on your tax dollars. A lot of things have talked about how it's going, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, but nobody says where it's going to come from. Are we broke? Are we broke as a nation? Yeah, we are. We're bankrupt. The world knows it, but they continue to tell us we're not. You have to find abilities to utilize resources that do not cost your federal, state, or local tax dollars. I can do that. I've done it in business a long time, operating on shoestring budgets, and I'm asking for your trust and your vote on August 14th to continue to do what I've done in private business. Believe me, any one of these gentlemen I would love to have as part of my command staff, but you need a civilian to run your sheriff's department to protect you.
We have a number of other questions for the candidates. However, time dictates that we now wrap this up with a summation.
Are we going to take a straw poll tonight? I don't think so. Listen, guys, it's real simple. You've got an election that's coming up. You're going to make the decision. You're going to decide the future of your county. Not me, not any candidate sitting up here, not one of us are going to make that decision for your future. You are. Your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, your fellow retirees, your family members. If you don't vote for me, that's okay. I'm not doing this because I have an ego. I'm not doing this because it's for my health. I'm doing this because God called me. He said to stand up for the children who can't speak for themselves. He said stand up for the elderly who can't speak for themselves. He said to speak up for a community and a ground that's crying for the grace of God to be restored. So if you don't vote for me, that's all right. I'm not a member of your club, but I am a lifelong Republican member. If being a member of a club and politicking is what it takes to be elected, I'm not your candidate. But if you're looking for somebody who is willing to bust this earth wide open and who has nothing to lose, there's nothing you can do to me, there's nothing you can say to me, there's nothing that anyone can do to stop me from trying to restore our community and save my family. That's why I'm running for sheriff. It's a very simple cause. Anyone who believes in the Republican fundamental principles of conservative fiscal policy, of Judeo-Christian foundation, I'm your candidate. If you believe that we as public servants owe you the honor of being your servants, I am. I will be your slave and you will be my master. Every deputy that works with me will have one fundamental character trait that is non-existent in law enforcement, and that's humility. We are bankrupt, and most states have it right. The people who wear the badges are peacekeepers. In Florida, they're law enforcement. In order to enforce the laws, everyone has to be a criminal, and you have to have big toys for big boys to pay that price to enforce the laws. It can be done cheaper, it can be done more efficiently, and it can be done with humility and honor and respect. I'm asking for your vote. Think about it. Go to my two websites, OkaloosaElection.com and SheridanForSheriff.com. Thank you so much for allowing me over these past months to come and be a fly on the wall here. It's truly been an honor, and I look forward to seeing you on August 14th.
Good forum, good questions. We have some excellent candidates. I want to thank Larry Ashley, Sheridan Lowrey, Stephen Menchel, Tony Taylor. Thank you very much for being with us. Wish you the very best in the upcoming election. About 30 days away, something like 19 days away. Getting close. Good luck. Another big round of applause for our candidates.
Hello, voters of Okaloosa County. My name is Austin Sheridan Lowrey II. I am your Christian, conservative, Republican candidate for sheriff. I'm asking for your vote on August 14th. Today's date is August the 10th, 1:54 p.m. Central Standard Time. Time is short. This has been a long, enduring race. I've run it on a shoestring budget. Matter of fact, we have spent less than $200 in this campaign, while my other opponents are spending thousands and thousands, and in the case of the incumbent sheriff, spending over $100,000. Is that the way we win elections today? Do we buy elections? Well, it has been. But you, the voters, have an alternative. You can make a difference in this election. If you want to make a difference, if you want to save your families, if you want to restore Christian conservative family values to Okaloosa County, if you want to eradicate drugs from Okaloosa County, you have an alternative. Go to the polls. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Send them to OkaloosaElection.com. Easy to remember. If you're going to vote in the Okaloosa election, you need to go to OkaloosaElection.com. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to get to meet many of you. Those that I didn't get an opportunity to meet, when elected your sheriff, my door will always be open. Thank you so much. God bless you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 15th as your new sheriff.